Have you ever thought about how scary luck is? The idea that something bad could happen to you due to circumstances beyond anyone's control is pretty terrifying. And it's the entire crux of a deadly game known as Russian roulette. Generally, the way that would work is a revolver loaded with a variable amount of bullets has its cylinder spun so that the order of shots is randomized. Then, whether it be for a bet, an intimidation tactic, or whatever, the player or players would take turns pulling the trigger. Now imagine if, instead of a revolver, you used a shotgun. That is basically the entire premise of the game that I want to talk about today, Buckshot Roulette. Buckshot Roulette is an indie horror game made by solo dev Mike Klubnika. It's currently only available on itch.io for exactly $1.20 or more, which is undoubtedly a reference to the typical 12-gauge sizing for a shotgun. The game itself is short, like real short. I was recommended the game randomly by a person in my Discord server, and aside from learning the basic premise, I went in blind. And in this video, I want to share my experience with the game and explain to you all why I think Buckshot Roulette is the best $1 horror game. So immediately upon opening the game, I thought that the title screen was pretty cool. It's simple, with the edges of the background consisting of falling shotgun shells, which would occasionally clip in front of the title, a really neat touch. Once you press start, you're greeted by a dirty bathroom and a visually striking art style reminiscent of recent horror games like Lethal Company and Iron Lung. The lights buzz loudly and the sound of club music deafened by the walls between you and the outside can be heard. The game's front page describes it as taking place in an underground nightclub with a crooked AI dealer waiting for you. Okay. After I spent like 30 seconds or so trying to click on random stuff to see if anything would happen, I finally stepped foot outside of the bathroom. And the music got loud. Really loud. A person can be seen standing next to the railing smoking a cigarette. You can't approach them, can't interact with them, or talk to them. All you can do is look. And I was stricken by this scene. The lighting and the music combined with the serenity of this person just vibing here kinda just made me stop and appreciate the room for what it was. It felt right to do. After like 40 seconds of that, I decided it was time to snap back to reality and actually play the game. For some reason, my character kicks down the door as he enters and arrives at a door. What the hell is that? So, that is the dealer. Right away, they just shove a liability waiver in your face and ask you to sign. It's almost as if they know you know who they are already. You're here to play the game. It doesn't need to introduce itself. Conveniently, my name fit perfectly within the 6-character limit, and between the time that my face was shoved in front of the waiver, a shotgun miraculously appeared on the table in front of me. The monitor to my right now activates to display the rounds, and me and the dealer are both given 2 lives, or charges. A section of the table flips to reveal 1 live round and 2 blanks. And the dealer loads the shotgun in an order unknown even to him, and the game begins. The gameplay itself is incredibly intuitive, and the first thing that the game tells you is that shooting yourself with a blank skips the dealer's turn, which is a huge part of the gameplay. It essentially incentivizes you to risk shooting yourself for the chance to skip the dealer's turn. But the underlying horror behind this game is that no matter how well you strategize, you can always just get unlucky. Once you actually pick up the shotgun, your character's hands start to shake as the impact of the decision really sets in. Who do you pick? The dealer or yourself? Now, if I was thinking purely logically, I would have picked myself. After all, I had a 2 in 3 chance of shooting a blank and only a 1 in 3 chance of hitting an actual shot. And apparently I was feeling lucky because I went for the dealer first. It was a blank, and now it was down to a 50-50. Okay, well, that's quite fortunate for me. The damn idiot shot himself. I knew that the last one was a blank, so I shot myself with it on purpose, but I'm pretty sure it just defaults to your turn being first between loads anyways. This time around, it was 3 shots and 2 blanks, and I was up first. Even though the odds weren't in my favor, I decided to try shooting myself. After all, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, well, now if I got unlucky, I'd just lose. He gets a blank, skips my turn, but decides to try his luck again despite the odds being unfavorable. And thankfully, I win the round. But it wasn't really on my own accord. I didn't strategize well around my odds at all. I just got lucky. At the start of round 2, the dealer decides to make things a little more interesting by adding items. This is where the real strategy gets introduced. For my 2 items, I got 2 cigarettes, which each return 1 charge you've lost to you by quote-unquote taking the edge off. The dealer got a magnifying glass, which shows the next shell in the chamber, and a beer, which skips the current shell in the chamber. The item strategy is probably my favorite aspect of the game. There are now 2 separate sets of luck, determining your fate. I'm gonna be honest, I kinda neglected the items for a bit in this round, and seeing my 50-50 odds with 1 shot and 1 blank just immediately made me decide to go all in and aim at the dealer. And now that that's done, we get to have 2 more items. I guess we're just gonna ignore that, since the game seems to want us to. Okay, this time there's 2 new items on the board. The saw lets you cut the end of the shotgun off and do double damage, and the handcuffs forcibly skip the next turn of your opponent. After sitting and strategizing with the items I have at play for a second, I tried out the magnifying glass and used it to guarantee a shot on the dealer. For some reason, I didn't think to use the saw when I had a guaranteed shot, but hey, like I said, I wasn't really thinking right when I first played the game. At this point, I was already up significantly, and he didn't have any cigarettes he could use to take the lead back, whilst I had 2 for security. To make matters even more hilarious, he proceeded to handcuff me, only to shoot himself in the face again. I got lucky. On the next load, it was 3 shots and 2 blanks. I weighed my options and decided to go all in on the chance of hitting a shot. I sawed off the front of the shotgun, even though doing 2 charges of damage didn't even matter at this point. I just wanted the satisfaction of the overkill. And I got it. Now it was finally time for the final round. Now every reload provides each player with 4 items, and when the shells get presented this time around, the dealer simply says, "You know the drill." At this point in the gameplay, you have access to such a large pool of items that the amount of luck involved actually dramatically decreases. The game has slowly been building up to this point where it can test you on how good you actually are. Make no mistake though, the game is still ultimately governed by luck, regardless of how foolproof you might think your strategy is. Now, I really didn't do anything all that interesting in this final round, I'll be real with you. I neglected my items so much that there was even a point where I ran out of room twice. When one of the 2 players gets below 3 lives, your screen's feed gets cut off, and you can't see how many lives you have left anymore. Now, as you can see, I had an overwhelming advantage over the dealer, despite basically having done nothing smart with the item strategy. It should be no surprise that I won with pretty much no effort in this circumstance. Once you win, the dealer disappears and gets replaced with a briefcase that you get to take home. And now we know the point of the game. Bet your life for a massive sum of cash. Finally, we get a view of the player's vehicle with the shotgun and cash briefcase in hand, and it scores you based on your performance. Then the game ends. And from there, I closed the game and decided to go about my day. But I wasn't really satisfied. I had never experienced any hardship while playing this game, nor did I do anything particularly intelligent. I was just lucky. I liked the game a lot, so I decided I would just play it again. This time, I meant business. About that. I died in the first round. Obviously, I hadn't known this up until this point, but interestingly enough, the dealer leaves you with a charge, and a random-ass dude just resuscitates you in the bathroom, and you get to start over again. It isn't like the generic save state most games have, where time would just rewind. This is a linear string of events. The dealer has let you continue. And after I played more, I realized a few strange things. First off, though I was objectively much better at the game than when I first played, I was performing much worse than I did in my first playthrough, which to me only solidified the message that the game tries to get across to you. No matter how much you strategize, you can always just get unlucky. And that's why this game is terrifying. The second thing I noticed is that when you die, you'd still be on whatever round you left off on. So, for example, if you died on round 2, you'd start from the beginning of round 2 instead of going back to round 1. The game's front page describes the dealer as being fair, and I honestly don't agree, but not because we have a disadvantage. To me, it feels as if the dealer gives the player an overwhelming advantage. Not only does the dealer not cheat and only considers information available to you as well, it doesn't seem like they even pay any attention to which items you have at your disposal, which is a luxury the player gets to abuse, on the contrary. Yet another aspect of the game that reinforces the player's advantage is the fact that you always get to go first when the gun gets reloaded. After playing for a few hours, I've realized how massive of an upper hand this truly is. The biggest part in support of this theory is that, like I said before, the dealer allows you to return after you've lost fair and square. It's very strange that this dealer, which is seemingly implied to have subjugated even God, is so relaxed in their approach used for playing against you. They've basically guaranteed that they will eventually lose, and nothing is more emblematic of that fact than what happens if you die in the final round. You're met with a jagged black and white wasteland. A gate lies before you, and if you interact with it, you pass through and get the game over screen. You are dead. If I had to guess, this place is heaven, in a state of ruin marked by God's absence. But even in this circumstance, it's possible to just hit retry and go back to the beginning of round 3. You'd figure that this time the save state is a jump backwards in time since the game said that you died, but when you re-enter the room, the dealer is initially silent before saying, "I better not see you again." What does that mean? To me, this almost seems to imply that although the dealer was being courteous and allowing you to restart until round 3, he did not, in fact, intend for you to return after your death in the final round. This means some other unknown force is at play. It truly is physically impossible for the dealer to win this game unless you completely give up. All of this makes me wonder what the player is really doing here in the first place. Why do they need this money so badly that they'd sign away the rights to their own life? Is it for themselves? For someone dear to them? Although most of the questions in this short game don't come with answers, taking everything I've discussed so far into consideration, I think I have an idea of what the game is trying to tell the player. In the middle of me making this video, a new update for the game was released, Buckshot Roulette version 1.1. If you remember earlier when I talked about trying to click around in the bathroom to see if I could interact with anything, well, now you can. The pills on the counter can now be taken, which activates an endless mode. Before, the game would slowly progress towards being more involved, but as far as I can tell, every round, including the first one in this mode, has random shell counts, random item counts, and random charge counts. The thing that actually makes this an endless mode is what happens once you win all 3 rounds. The display shows you the amount of money you've made, and you get a terrifying offer: double or nothing. This mechanic is honestly perfect because it not only adds a bunch of replayability, but it also ties in with the themes of the game perfectly. The message of the game isn't some cryptic secret or anything like that. It literally has roulette in its name. It's a commentary on gambling addiction. The final goal is a massive sum of cash, and you basically have to rely on luck in order to get to that end goal. In real life, you can technically continue to try gambling, and eventually you will win. But of course, that idea relies on the premise that you live in some perfect world where you never lose. In the game, you get to retry if you've messed up. That's not a luxury that you're afforded in real life. Even the dealer, who's essentially the catalyst from which that you choose to ruin your own life by gambling, is represented in this game as a hideous, grotesque monster. And although in real life the lethal stakes of gambling may not appear as apparent as a shotgun roulette, that is essentially what you're doing. In reality, no amount of money is worth the potential damage to your life that this can cause. And to me, that's the message that Buckshot Roulette is trying to convey. This was something quick that I decided to put together on vacation, so hopefully you enjoyed my yapping about this awesome game for however long the video ends up being. Mike Klubnika's itch.io page will be in the description, and I deeply encourage you to go try out the game for yourself. It's only $1.20, and its randomness lends itself to being a unique horror experience even if you've watched someone play it before. I really would wholeheartedly recommend it. If you had a good time, it would mean the world if you subscribed for more content like this and turned on post notifications so you never miss a video. If you want to support me further, $5 channel members get early access to new videos, and you can also follow my socials and join the community Discord server. That being said, that's going to be all from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time.